I'm Rick Casey. With me is Dr. Patrick Kelly, UTSA professor specializing in Civil War and Texas. So Patrick, cotton was just huge in Texas and in the dynamics of the Civil War. So help me understand that.
Right. Well, of course, the cotton trade was one of the things that led to the Civil War, the intertwining of the growth of cotton and slavery. They were very closely linked. But what happened in Texas? Texas was the only Confederate state that had an international border. It had a border with Mexico. And so the Confederate Congress, after secession, tried to pressure Europe into recognizing the Confederacy by embargoing cotton. They felt like they could strong-arm Europe into...
Because Europe was a huge market for cotton.
A huge market. A third of British workers worked in cotton production that came from the South. So, but the one...
Excuse me, but also, so the Federals were blockading the other states.
Right.
So they couldn't get...
Right, the cotton could, this happens a little, there was a self-embargo imposed, and then there was the federal blockade later. The one exception to this was Texas because of the border. Texas cotton could get across the Rio Grande, and then once it got across the Rio Grande, it would go to Matamoros, and there was a very small town called Baghdad, which is a boom town, which grew to apparently 20,000 people during the Civil War. And so in the Brownsville, Matamoros area, Baghdad was destroyed in a hurricane about 10 years after the Civil War. There were boom times as hundreds of thousands of bales of cotton, and a bale of cotton is about 400 pounds. Hundreds of thousands of bales of cotton, and of course the price of cotton skyrocketed, right, during the Civil War because of the shortage, supply and demand, and just tremendous fortunes were made. Breckinridge of Breckinridge Park.
George Breckinridge.
George Breckinridge, he was worth, and we know this because he filled out the 1860 census, he said he was worth $0. In 1865, he put down that he was worth $100,000. And so, how did he get this money? Because he was involved in the cotton trade. So when you go to Breckinridge Park, that is a legacy of the Civil War. Now, how did Breckinridge get this money? He hooked up with a guy named Charles Stillman. Charles Stillman was a Connecticut merchant that his family had excellent contacts on the East Coast. He came to Matamoros in the 1820s, moved to Brownsville, and helped create Brownsville after the Mexican-American War. And so he was already very well established. He was a Confederate sympathizer, but really what he cared about was profits. So when the Civil War occurred, when it broke out, Stillman's agents were able to buy cotton in the interior of Texas, transport it to the border into Mexico, and Stillman, according to John Hart at the University of Houston, was one of the richest men on earth by the end of the Civil War, and Breckinridge was one of his many associates. And Stillman, this is the seed money for National City Bank, which today is Citicorp. So Stillman, in some ways, is the first robber baron. His grandchildren married Rockefeller nieces.
So quite a level of play.
Yes.
So the cotton, Breckinridge, of course, became a very important person in San Antonio.
Right.
Basically created our water system.
Right.
Every year the city council would run short of money.
Right.
He would lend them the money
Right.
to finish the fiscal year.
Right.
And then, of course, he gave us Breckinridge Park.
Right. And another major player was T.H. House. And T.H. House's son was Colonel House, Colonel Edward House, who was Wilson's right-hand man during Wilson's administration, very involved in Wilson's presidency in Versailles. Very powerful figure. William Marsh Rice of Rice University. He went into Mexico. He doubled his fortune. Again, he was a facilitator selling Texas cotton in Mexico. And this cotton was going to European markets. Some of it was going to New York City, though, and Boston as well. And in return, weapons were coming up into Texas. So the cotton trade has left its mark on Texas.
Once again, fascinating. Dr. Patrick Kelly, UTSA. One more time tomorrow night. Thank you very much.